Hello everyone, welcome back. On the last Azur Archives, Enterprise and her meta counterpart met following a vicious Siren air raid in Ashen Simulacrum. Today, we head back to just after the Royal Navy's ultimatum in Iris of Light and Dark, and over to the Mediterranean with Empyreal Tragicomedy, marking the debut of a new faction, the Sardinia Empire, and detailing their conflict with the Royal Navy. Let's begin. On my path of conquest, having yet to witness the light of dawn that I seeked, I found myself lost amidst the woodlands. Dark, dim, and dreary were they. Entombed within the darkness of those dense corpses I stood alone, trembling with fear. And I could do naught but curse myself for my ignorance and my foolishness. Oh, when did I stray from the path of righteousness? How much time has passed? In the Sardinian capital, Veneto curses out the Ironblood for allowing a large Siren fleet to slip into the Mediterranean Sea. Littorio rallies her sister, telling her to look upon their fleet and homeland, suggesting that she shall personally lead a fleet to wipe them out, while also alleviating her worries regarding the Royal Navy and them ending up like the Vicia. The fleet wipes the Sirens out, albeit with some sisterly bickering between Conte de Cavour and Giulio Cesare. Veneto orders them to La Spezia for some R&R, but as she does, Zara notices aircraft flying nearby. She asks if Veneto requested air support from Ironblood, before Cavour identifies them as Royal Navy aircraft, who leave their range before any anti-air measures can be taken. They carry on under Veneto's orders. Over in the Royal Islands, Warspite analyses a photograph taken by their recon aircraft of the Sardinian fleet. She notes that it's excessive to deploy that many shipgirls to handle such a fleet, and believes it to be a theatrical show of force, contradicting their doctrine. Illustrious suggests bringing it to the negotiating table first, in hopes of them rejoining the alliance. The former runs it by Queen Elizabeth, who approves the operation, but still orders her to put the Sardinians in their place. Warspite complies, but makes it known that she would like to avoid a repeat of the Vicia incident. Warspite and Littorio meet to discuss the current predicament. Littorio is quick to accuse the Royals of letting the Sirens slip through and getting the Sardinians to clean up the mess. Warspite reminds her that, between them, both entrances to the Med are under their control. A fleet that large would have been spotted before getting that close, unless they were to come from a mirror sea. Warspite informs her that the Royal Fleet plans on scouring the Med for Siren presence, and Littorio proposes they make it a joint operation to speed up the process and help rebuild relations following the Vicia incident. Warspite agrees, on the condition that no Sardinian battleships take part. Veneto and Littorio converse over progress. Littorio exposits that, to control the Mediterranean, they need to break the Royal Navy's blockade at Malta. She plans on using the joint op as a distraction while she and some of the Sardinian battleships move to Taranto under the cover of night, and pincer Malta the next day while they're distracted. Veneto is concerned about this blatant declaration of war on the Royals, but Littorio has reassured her that everything will go well. On the day of the operation, York meets with Zara and Polar, beginning the op. Come nightfall, true intentions are revealed, with the Zara twins preparing to sink York, while the others handle the rest of the Royal Navy forces. However, York has come prepared, delivering a grandiose speech and firing flares from her secondaries to signal to Warspite and Illustrious that their other operation is to start. Illustrious had prepared these flares alongside other countermeasures and plans, suspicious of their insistence of doing this at night, when the Malta patrols don't operate. Beneath the light of the moon, Taranto becomes a sea of flames under the Royal Navy's air raid. The fleet are left to wonder how the Royals could mobilise air squadrons at night, and see through them as they gasp for air in the burning port. Veneto orders Littorio to retreat, but Littorio refuses, instead choosing to go after the carrier in an attempt to cut off their intel, and still take Malta by the morning. Littorio encounters Illustrious, asking how she knew their plans. Illustrious responds that it was what they would have done, and also claims responsibility for the bombing. Littorio compliments Illustrious, but for what she's done, she must destroy her. The two do battle, Illustrious surprised at Littorio's firepower, and the latter allured by the former's thick armour. Illustrious torpedoes Littorio, who is able to stay afloat thanks to the world's okayest torpedo defence system. Her gloating about this is prematurely cut off by a salvo from Warspite. Littorio is forced to admit defeat and retreats, but not before trying to flirt with Illustrious. Sometime later, in the Sardignian capital, Veneto and Littorio are discussing how to handle the Royal Navy's bolstered forces and Illustrious sisters, having learned of their coming to the Mediterranean. Though each of their interpretations on handling the Illustrious sisters differs vastly from one another. Veneto comments on their Senate's political infighting, and the Ironblood's waning patience following the attack on Taranto, and sets about putting a plan together to find out where they stand in this conflict, who are their allies and enemies, and who are just actors performing on the stage. Carbonari is the first to greet the royals, specifically Formidable, but makes the greatest mistake of her life by calling the royal lady lumbering. This causes her boilers to fail, and she and the rest of the Sardignian vanguard are sent packing, in time for Warspite to arrive, and begin the search for the Jewel of Calabria. On the way they encounter Zara and Pola. Warspite sends Formidable off and does battle with the cruisers. Warspite wins her fight with the cruisers, but they manage to escape under the cover of her lecture, after asking how she can hit so well at night. They relate to Veneto that a carrier and her escort fleet have broken through their lines and moved to intercept. Warspite gives chase, bemoaning the speed of all these youngsters, and hoping for a retrofit after this operation. With the Sardignian battleships, they make final preparations for the incoming conflict. They'd requested support from the Ironblood, but it's not coming. Something about light battles having too many unknown variables. With a heavy heart, Veneto realises that they, just like the Vicia, were pawns to them. All that's left is to end this play and find out whether it's a tragedy or a comedy. The Sardignians and the royals meet at the Jewel of Calabria. Littorio exposits about the place, throwing a flirt Formidable's way for good measure, while Veneto answers her questions about the meaning of this meeting, to ascertain where they lie within this conflict. She warns the royals that Ironblood has grown much stronger. In time, they would have been swallowed by their darkness. If the royals cannot defeat the Sardignians here, they stand no chance against the Ironblood and their Siren Masters. Warspite concludes that all these obstacles were part of their wager, and asks that if the Royal Navy proves its strength, that they can protect the Mediterranean, would they consider rejoining the alliance. Veneto gives her word, and the battle begins. Sometime later, Formidable gives her report of the battle at a tea party with her sisters. The Royal Navy's fire control radars versus the Sardignians' lack of them made it an uneven fight in their favour. No one controls the night like they do. Illustrious announces that their fourth and final sister will be joining them soon, while they make small talk and tease each other. Meanwhile, in the Ironblood, Scharnhorst mocks the Sardignians. All that bluster just to be beaten like that. Neisner has forwarded the information regarding the Royal Navy's radars to R&D, and informs her sister that Bismarck is about to make her move. She is ordered to keep an eye on the Sardignians. And there you have it, Empyreal Tragicomedy. It sure is an introduction to the Italians. It's not a great showing on their part. They spend all this time scheming and planning only to get undercut by the royals every time. All three of the post-battle scenes, with the royals, Ironblood, and Sirens, that I didn't include because there's a whole lot of nothing, imply that it was pretty one-sided, so they didn't even get that for them. And unfortunately it sets the standard for how they're typically treated. I know Italy is one of the favourite punching bags when it comes to World War II, but come on man, even the French are treated better than this. They get overshadowed by Formidable in their own debut. Dédale and him had great ships, but the event itself was a bit of a nothing burger. Their World Expo gets hijacked, with the one doing the opening ceremony getting kidnapped right after it starts, and they just got their first UR last month, after everyone else has at least 3. They deserve better. Anyway, with that rant off my chest, next time, Swirling Cherry Blossoms. Until then, fair winds and following seas.